What if you could travel solo and not be alone? Or find a group tour without single supplements? Well, today I have a guest on who's going to share all about how they've created a company just for you to help you with these matters. I have Tracey Nesbitt from Solo Traveler. And Solo Traveler is a world premiere digital publication on traveling solo. So they publish current tips and advice on how to travel solo, where to travel solo. They maintain a list of tours and cruises with no or low single supplements. And you can use their page to do all kinds of searches on solo trips based on your criteria. But more than that, it is a community of solo travelers where people will share a passion for traveling alone, exchange tips, suggestions, and encouragement. And Tracy is one of the founders of that. And she is a writer, editor, food and wine fanatic, and traveler. And she's going to share a little bit about her first trip abroad and what she learned about solo travel. Listen in on our conversation. Well, hello. Today I have Tracey Nesbitt of Solo Traveler and Tracy's Liz. Well, welcome, Tracy.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, you have been doing traveling or solo traveling for a long time, and you have this wonderful group, which we'll get a chance to talk more about later. But I want to hear your story. Like, when did you start traveling? And then maybe share about your first solo travel experience.
Okay. Well, I always say that my very first travel experiences were very, very small. When I grew up in the country and when I was in high school, every once in a while I would skip school and I would get on a bus and I would go into the big city and I would spend the day wandering around and having that sort of experiences I couldn't have in my tiny little town. But my first trip abroad was actually with a friend and not solo. And it didn't work out very well. And it's
Oh,
really, really what taught me that I was better suited for traveling on my own.
oh, I'm curious now.
Well, we didn't know each other very well, and neither of us had been to Europe before, and it was a little too much togetherness and a little not enough of knowing each other, and so it was about 3 or 4 days in. I said, you know what? Maybe we should split up during the day and then meet for dinner, which worked great because then we each had our own solo experiences to share with each other at the end of the day. So from then on, I've really been sort of traveling on my own. And then my first trip, actually completely on my own, was to Paris.
Yes.
And that taught me a lot about, I was very nervous about not speaking the language. And this was before cell phones and
Mhm.
uh, maps on your phone, and
Right.
I had a paper map, and it was before Uber, which I make such liberal use of when I travel now. And so I really like in a new city to do the hop on, hop off bus tours. I
Hmm.
have a very bad habit of hopping off and forgetting to hop back on. And so I missed the last bus. And so I had to figure out from a paper map standing on the street in a place where I didn't speak the language how to get back to my accommodation. And it took a very long time. And I had very sore feet by the end of it. But the feeling of having conquered that fear and that feeling of accomplishment and competence and the feeling that if I got in trouble, I could get myself out of it was the big learning from that trip and the big thing that I recommend to everyone that because then it feeds into all other areas of your life.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I always say if you can navigate in a foreign city, especially Paris,
Yes.
because I've been there twice, and I would have to say towards the end of the second time, I was last time I was there was in 2023. I finally felt like I had a grasp of the subway system, right? It took a while, but if you can navigate in another country, you can conquer probably anything, to be honest.
Well, and their metro system, I mean, I come from a city where the metro is on a grid like this.
Yeah.
And in Paris, it's just all squiggly
Yeah.
lines everywhere. It was really, yes, it takes a while.
To learn it, yes, and get it. Okay, I'm on this line. Yes, I know. Yeah, and I'm not used to that myself because I'm in the US and we use cars. We don't use public
Right.
transportation even. So when you are traveling, I highly recommend, public transportation, Ubers or Lyfts and stuff. So yeah, that definitely helps these days
Yes.
for sure. Well, I cater to women 50 and over, and I'm sure you see a lot of women in our age range traveling solo nowadays. And I want to hear from you. I even think maybe you guys put out an article or something about why do you think so many women, midlife and up, basically, are doing, they are I don't know what the stats are, but they're pretty high as far as who are the solo travelers out there. And
Mhm.
even just who's booking trips is really the women, right? So why do you think that is? Why are you seeing that trend now?
I think I mean, there are all sorts of people who run stats on these things from various different perspectives. Um, but I think there are a few things. One is, I mean, we're at a really unique point in history where there are more single person households than there have ever been in recorded time. So,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and so that's not just young people. But I think that women, if they're marrying, they're often marrying later, or maybe they're not marrying at all, or partnering up. But there are also a huge chunk of women who have been coupled, and have outlived their partner or parted ways. Their kids are grown and they have the time and the money now to be
Mhm.
able to pursue things when at a period of time when they have fewer family responsibilities to hold them in place. So I think it's quite a, I mean, we really are the it demographic now.
Yes.
And it feels good.
I agree. For once, I mean, I think about when, my mom was in her 50s and just I think it felt so old, right? And they,
Mhm.
where I think I look at 50-year-olds now and maybe because I'm in my 50s, like we're just doing it. We're vibrant and we're just being bold and there's a lot of differences between like the previous generation and I think ours and just the freedom that we also feel as women because we kind of grew up with that freedom allowed as we got older, whereas I think about my mom maybe didn't have those opportunities or that freedom, right? Back then. So yeah, I'm excited to be part of that group.
Me too. And I look at my mom's generation and, they would sort of look forward to retirement as a time of gearing down.
Right.
And I think that women today are just, looking for their next act and doing exciting new things rather than
Waiting. Yeah.
whether, you know, hanging up their hat.
Right, right. I think that whole like at least in my circles and just talking to people, retirement, I mean, people are doing things earlier, like you said, they're not waiting for retirement. And I think even because retirement, at least in the US, keeps getting pushed later and later, it's like, why do you want to wait till you're 67 now or whatever to retire when you can start enjoying these things in life now, right? So,
Yes.
yes, I love it.
Yeah. And I think that adding to those numbers as well, um, more so than before, women who are uh, partners and parents, whatever, are taking time to travel solo sometimes as well. So that's adding to those
Mhm.
uh, numbers of women because I think that people are seeing it now as something that contributes to their relationship by having going off and discovering things on their own and bringing that back home.
I totally agree with that. Yes, I think I know for the time that I was married and I would do some traveling, it definitely it made me a better person. Like I could come back and, maybe appreciate, what I have, or, just be in better spirits when I came back from the trip
Yeah.
to be able to handle the stresses of like, everyday life or marriage. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So,
Yeah. I was just reading an article on the weekend actually by a woman who had traveled on her own before she had kids and then found herself with three young kids and decided to take a trip for a week and realized in the course of it she thought she was going to feel so guilty and uncomfortable about it, but she realized in the course of it that she was being a great role model for her kids to
mhm.
sort of demonstrate that taking care of yourself and pursuing your interests. And so that's really interesting now too.
Oh, I love that perspective. It's so true. We can't, we as women are tend to be more servient. We serve and we give of ourselves so much. And I always say you can't serve from an empty cup, right? So like
It's
going
true.
on a trip, kind of helps maybe fill your cup like it sounds like for this lady that she did. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good that she didn't feel because I think having young children, you can feel that way maybe having this guilt thing of like, I'm going away, but having that perspective of influencing the next generation is uh, really important. And I feel like I have two adult boys now who have seen me travel and they love to travel too now. So, and it's funny because their father doesn't even fly. So they definitely
Okay.
got the travel bug for me because I think they've witnessed and seen me go, and they have also traveled with me and seen how different I am on my trip, and even after I get back, they kind of notice that difference. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, share with me about uh, have you done some solo travel with groups? Have you done some group travel?
I have. N Not a lot, but I have done a river cruise and also a trip through Ireland. Um, and, I went into them thinking, am I going to feel confined, by itineraries and timelines and that sort of thing after having been in charge of everything on my trips? But I actually enjoyed it a lot. It More and more today, tours aren't what they used to be. So there's a lot of flexibility in a lot of them.
Okay.
So whether it's in terms of some of them build in free days into the itinerary, or they will have. I was on a trip in Ireland, and you had each day you had a choice of activities. And so if you were more active and you wanted to go hiking, you could do that. If you wanted to do something like take a cooking class, you could
Mhm.
do that. So you didn't stay with the group all the time. You could go off and do any or none of these things if you wanted to do your own thing. So I think for people who are worried about being stuck in a tour. I think that today's tours are very different. Um, and a river cruise, I think, is a brilliant way to get to see a lot of different places that would take a lot of effort and time and money
Hmm.
to be able to see. And you only have to unpack your suitcase
One.
once.
Yes,
Uh,
I agree.
so yeah, I really enjoyed that a lot. Yeah.
Now, does you created what's called the Tracy's list.
Yes.
And in that list, you have a lot of recommendations for such as group tours, like you just
Mhm.
mentioned, right? Um, how'd that come about? How'd the Tracy's list come about? And tell us a little bit more about what you offer on the Tracy's list that people could benefit from.
Sure. So, Solo Traveler has been around since 2009. And very early on, we started advocating with the travel industry for solo travelers because we hear all the time that the biggest pain point for solo travelers who enjoy tours and cruises is the single supplement. And for people who don't know what that is, it's an extra fee up to 100% and occasionally even more than 100% tacked on if you're traveling on your own because prices are based on double occupancy. So what we did is we would only allow people to advertise us if they charged less than 20% single supplement. So nothing that you see on our site has more than 20%. But then we thought, as time went on and we feel like the travel industry is responding
Yes.
really well to this huge demographic with
Hmm.
money to spend.
Yes.
I think we can do better than this for people. Like, what more can we give people? And so we came up with this idea of Tracy's List, which is a vetted short list of tours and cruises. It started out in November of 2024, and it was just going to be similar to what we had on our website, except that I would review hundreds of trips and choose what I thought were the most interesting that offered the best value.
Mhm.
But now, as of January, now every trip on Tracy's List has zero single supplement. So,
That's
because I didn't think I was going
incredible.
to be able to do it, I didn't think that it,
Yes.
would be possible to find. But things have really come a long way for solo travelers in terms of the single supplement. So now, once a month, I send out this list. It's an email subscription, and it'll have my short list of trips, and they're not the sort of cookie cutter itineraries. We've had
Oh, good.
dog sledding in Alaska and
I
African
love
safaris and train trips through the mountains and
it.
all sorts of different and I try as often as possible to have at least one trip from each continent on in each
Okay.
edition of Tracy's List. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's incredible. Okay. Well, we'll get some more information where people can get that at the
Sure.
end. But yes, I think that's so important. And I'm glad that the travel industry is starting to respond to the huge demographic, as we talked about early on, of, these solo travelers. And yeah, that's been, I mean, I know for me, that was what was preventing me from, for the longest time, doing a cruise, which I finally ended up doing last year. But that's because I found somebody to go with that I knew I could travel with well, right? Like I don't want to have the story like you had with your first trip. I've experienced some travels like yours where, you find out along the way that, yeah, and I advocate if you are traveling with somebody that there's a lot of pre-trip kind of get to know each other's kind of expectations and stuff. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so this is good news. I'm excited for those solo travelers out there to get their hands on that because that is a huge deal. It does prevent me from doing certain trips as well because of the single supplement that I just will not pay.
Yes. And some people, I mean, also, I should also say that a lot of tour companies now will do roommate matching for those people who want to avoid the single supplement and don't mind sharing a room.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that
So
too.
there is that option as well.
Yeah.
I'm just not, I just prefer
You like your space.
I do. I mean, it's one of the great things about solo travel that it's well suited to introverts and extroverts. And
Yeah.
so I'm more on the introvert side and I really need that quiet space at the end of the day.
I hear you. Yes. Yes. Well, let's go back to talking a little more specifically about some of your most memorable travels. I want to hear one that maybe really stands out as being I know that all trips, all travel affects us in some way. I can attest to that. But maybe if you can think of one that was exceptionally transformative for you, that maybe even surprised you. Yeah, you have a place
Hmm.
in mind. Sorry, I put you on the spot here.
Well, I mean, in terms of the most memorable, quite surprisingly, it was a domestic trip. And
That's okay.
I
I have a lot of
so
those too.
yeah, I was so caught off guard. And it was a very short trip, but very impactful for me. So I took the Rocky Mountaineer train.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, from Vancouver to Banff, I think. And I just, I mean, I had never seen that part of the country, and I had never seen those landscapes.
Mm.
And on this train, they have an outdoor viewing platform. And I would stand there for the longest time, just breathing in the air as it would change from very dry to almost tropical, and just the mountains and then the plains. And I mean, it was really something. And on that train, it can be quite a social experience as well if you want it to be.
Hmm.
And I met this woman who was traveling with her brother and his wife, and they had all just retired, and this was their gift to themselves. And they had traveled from the UK and
Oh,
taken a cruise and then come down to Vancouver and were taking this train. And so it was fascinating talking to people who had never been to my country before, and how they were seeing it and how I was seeing it, because I had actually not seen it either. Um, but at one point, I was standing on the outdoor viewing platform, and I just started to cry because I had this, you know, I had seen images of all of these landscapes, of course, but hadn't seen them up close. And I just suddenly felt like very Canadian. It's very like sort of patriotic, and
that's
it was
okay.
just it was just a very unusual experience. But it was also really great in the way that solo travelers will often find that people will take them under their wing when they travel. And this brother and sister really took me under their wing.
Oh, how sweet.
Um, and it was really lovely. And but that is something where it's expensive. I definitely think of it as a once in a lifetime experience, but
Mhm.
I would love to take my young niece on that trip one day. She's grown up in Europe, and but it yeah, it just was it's one that still stands out in my mind.
Oh, I love it. Yes, I have looked at doing that trip myself. I understand it. It's yeah. I mean, I might have to do something differently, but I do love that idea, and that you just I feel like too, when you were out there, besides feeling Canadian, just experiencing the nature that, like you said, you might not have been used to, and just, I mean, I think sometimes for me that can be overwhelming because it's just beautiful, right? I mean, those
Yeah,
Rocky Mountains in Canada are beautiful. Can't deny.
yeah. And the staff on that train, they seem like they really love what they do. Like
Mm.
they had so many stories to tell, and they were always, pointing out if they were on high alert for wildlife so that we would see it. So they would,
Oh, I love
point
that.
it out. And it's very early mornings to get on that train because it only runs during daylight. So you're not wasting any time being on the train when you can't see things. Uh,
Yes. Yeah, that's a
but
good
those very early mornings are made easier when you smell them baking fresh croissants and
point.
brew fresh coffee for you.
Ugh, making me hungry. Yes. Sounds great. I do love train rides. I just
Yeah.
there's something about them. I mean, to me, it feel even though I've done one in the US, it feels a little European to me just because my first time to Europe, that's what we rode. We rode the trains, right? And it's a great way, like you said, to just get around and see different parts of the country, different landscapes, while you're going from point A to point B. So.
Yeah. It's so it's I don't know why we don't do as much of that in North America, but in Europe, it's
I
amazing how
know,
you can be in one city
right?
and take day trips out
I know.
and see so much of a country in very short time.
I know. Yeah, I don't know if it's because our countries are so spread out. It might be that
Yeah,
just
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I wish there was more train available. So tell me what advice you might give to, say we have someone just starting out as a solo traveler. What advice might you give them to get them, encouraged to maybe take that first step? If you're in transition, divorce, empty nest, reinvention, and you know travel is a part of your next chapter, let's build that plan together. You don't need more travel tips. You need support becoming confident. Apply to my one-on-one coaching program. The link is in the show notes.
I would say don't be deterred. I think a tour is a great way to start. Going on your own on a tour, um, I know some people poo-poo it and say it's not solo travel, but I disagree. And I think it can be a great way to get your feet wet, and
Yes.
especially if you choose one that has lots of free time built
Mhm.
into it. Um, and I mean, I'll say again that a river cruise is brilliant for that sort of thing because you dock right in the town. And so you don't have to do any of the activities. You can just wander and, make sure you're back before they leave.
Yeah.
But sometimes I didn't feel like doing a trip and I would just wander, sit in a cafe and people watch and
Yes.
that sort of thing. So that's one way to get your feet wet. Another, you can start by just going, you don't have to go far. You can even do a staycation if you live in a large city. There are lots of parts of your city you won't have seen or experienced, and treat yourself to a couple nights in a hotel and see that your own city as a tourist as a way to
Yeah.
or somewhere that's just a couple hours away.
Mhm.
Um, or if you want to go internationally for your first trip, I would say pick a place where you speak the local language. Just it can be daunting. And it's usually, I mean, people speak English in an awful lot of places, but I know that fear of not wanting to sound stupid or not wanting to or not understanding how things work. And
Yeah.
so if you go somewhere like London or, where there are anywhere in the UK,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
and they speak English, but you have to adjust your ear to the accents
Depending on where you are,
some
yes.
places. But that's one way to start, I think, to really go somewhere where the culture is not wildly different from your own so that you won't be afraid of making missteps.
Mm, I like that too. Thinking about, like you said, not so wildly different, but different enough, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a
And I
good
think
one.
the one of the things I learned from my early trips, I was so terrified of looking silly or not understanding things, and so I would sit for a very long time and observe people, like how do they pay to get on the bus, or how do people line up here, because you go some places and well, I'm Canadian. We're very used to standing in straight lines and and taking our turn. But sometimes you go places where they don't. And so you have to
Yeah.
understand how it works. But now I just ask questions. I used to be afraid to ask questions, but after a while, I remember being in Germany one time and I could, for the life of me, could not figure out which train car I was supposed to be on. So I just stood on the platform and I just walked up to everyone and said, "Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?" until somebody spoke English.
Yeah.
and found a way. And because, they're never going to see you again. So it doesn't matter if you feel silly. It, you just need to get where you're going. And
That's a
so I think,
good point. You're not
yeah,
gonna see them
I
again.
think be brave and
Yes, be brave. Ask questions for sure. Ah,
yeah.
love it. Love it. Is there any place you are personally dreaming of getting to as far as travel? What's on your bucket list? High on your bucket list right now?
I have long wanted to
Yeah.
visit Armenia.
Okay.
Um, when I was in university, I had a group of friends. I met a group of friends who were Armenian, and I have always wanted to go there. Somehow, I have never sort of made the time to do it. Um, but now it has a little bit more in terms of tourism infrastructure,
Yes,
and
it does.
um, there are, tours there, or you can go on your own. And I think just the history and the food and the art and it
Yeah,
just I that's my dream trip right now.
it draws you. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that's incredible. Yes. Well, any last minute advice regarding women solo travelers that you would want to give?
I would say this is the perfect time to be a solo traveler because we really are the desirable demographic for the travel industry, and more um, things are being built around us. I mean, next year, um, Riviera, it has a ship that is going to be dedicated only to solo travelers. So it
Really?
will every cabin on the ship will be priced for solo travelers.
Oh, that's
And
incredible.
so that's groundbreaking. I mean,
Yes.
that's really great. And so I think this is a great time to go. And it's if you're at all nervous, if you're new to it, I mean, a travel coach would be a great thing
Yeah.
to have on your side to help you plan it and make sure that you're getting out of it what you want to get out of it, and not just picking an itinerary from a list.
Right. No, I
Because I
love
think that um, there's so much to be learned from solo travel beyond just what you're seeing, but so much to be learned about yourself and
hmm
what will carry
Yes.
back into your life at home. So I think you absolutely have to try it.
I love how you made that little plug for travel coach, right? Well, so Tracy, tell my people where they can find, tell them about the website. Obviously, we talked about Tracy's list, but that main website, where is that and how can they find you?
So the URL is solotravelerworld.com.
Okay.
And right at the top, there's a link to Tracy's list, and so you can get more information about that. Um, we publish about twice a week on the website, and Tracy's list comes out once a month. And we also have free newsletters and
hmm
lists of
hmm
deals and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there is a fee for Tracy's list, but it's the annual list works out to about 250 a month, so it's not much of a not less than a I think I paid $8 for a latte at Starbucks the other day.
Yeah,
So
I would say much less than a coffee. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so the website, I mean, we've been at it for 16 years now, so there are lots of tips and things you can pick up there. And we also have our Facebook group, which is the Solo
Yeah.
Travel Society. And you can go in there and ask questions, connect with solo travelers from around the world, and there are lots of people in there with great advice as well.
Yes, and I want to really, pump that up because I recently closed my Facebook group, and because there are much bigger, much more active and better groups, just like Tracy mentioned, I'll make sure I include that link in the show notes for people they want to join that active group. And it is really encouraging when I see Facebook groups like that where people are posting and they're sharing their travels, they're sharing advice. I mean, I've gotten a couple good tips as far as like, places to eat or places to stay from some of those groups. So
Yeah.
yeah, because people have actually been there, right? And you haven't, maybe you're planning to go. And so you're trying to plan, some things to do. So I think those groups are great for that. I am part of your newsletter for solo
Oh,
travel. Or yeah, so I get that. And but I think I'm going to probably subscribe to Tracy's list now because I do want to find out more about these trips that do not charge for that solo supplement. I'm game for that. I love it. So, well, Tracy, this has been amazing. I'm so grateful for what you do in your group and how you've been doing it for so long, and you've seen such changes probably in the industry and
yes.
how exciting it is, like you said, to be in this time that we're at as far as women solo travelers. And you guys have great resources for all of us out there, and we're grateful for that. So thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you. This has been fun. It's always fun to pause and think about what it is that you do
Yes,
and
yes, and share
you
your
know.
vision, your mission, and everything like that. I want to get that word out there. So thank you again, and we'll be in touch, I'm sure, right?
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Did this podcast inspire you to participate in a solo journey? Well, my hope is that all women 50 and up have the courage and opportunity to experience at least one solo trip in their lifetime. But maybe you're feeling stuck about trying it solo. With my one-on-one travel coaching program, I can help you have a transformative trip, especially for those who are needing healing. Go to my website, CherylBeckEsch.com, and check out the program. Travel is a wonderful vehicle to heal.